Most women believe that pleasure fades quietly, that it belongs to another version of themselves, the one who used to move without thinking, who could blush from a single touch. They don't talk about it, not even with friends. They just notice that something feels different, that warmth doesn't rise as quickly, that desire seems to sleep deeper and wake slower. They wonder if it's normal, or if they've somehow crossed an invisible line that no one warned them about. But what if that line isn't the end of pleasure at all? What if it's the beginning of a new kind, one that moves differently, speaks differently, and asks to be found in new places? Most women never get to find out, because no one explains what truly changes after 60, not in the body, not in the mind, not in the heart. And so silence grows where curiosity should have been. Today we're breaking that silence. I'm going to walk you through 6 intimate secrets about women's pleasure that most people never say out loud, not because they're shameful, but because they're tender, powerful, and deeply misunderstood. And by the end of this conversation, you'll understand how to reconnect with a part of yourself that may have felt lost, but was never truly gone. Stay with me, because this episode is about rediscovering your body's quiet magic and learning how it still responds, still remembers, and still wants you to listen. Welcome to the Female Health Podcast, where we talk honestly about women's bodies, emotions, and everything in between. I'm Dr. Lia Parker, gynecologist and intimate health psychologist for over 30 years. I've sat across from thousands of women who whispered the same question: why does pleasure feel so different now? And that question never comes with just curiosity, it comes with emotion. Some women say it with a quiet sadness, others with frustration, and many with disbelief that something so private, so essential, could change so much without warning. They talk about feeling disconnected from their own bodies, as if the signals got weaker or the translation stopped working somewhere along the way. But here's what I always tell them: your body hasn't given up on you, it's adapting. It's learning a slower, more deliberate rhythm. It's shedding the rush of youth for the steadiness of maturity, and once you understand how to move with that rhythm instead of fighting it, the experience deepens. Pleasure stops being about quick sparks and starts becoming about waves that build quietly from within. And that's why this conversation matters, because you deserve to know what's really happening, not just hormonally, but emotionally, physically, and spiritually. This isn't about chasing who you were 20 years ago. It's about discovering what your body can still give you now, and realizing that it may be something even better. I'll be revealing 6 secrets that unlock that understanding. Each one will take you a little deeper into how desire changes, how sensation shifts, and how the body's natural pathways of pleasure can be reawakened with patience and knowledge. So take a breath, stay with me, because the first secret begins right where most women start to worry, in that quiet space between what you feel and what you remember feeling. And once you understand that space, everything else begins to make sense. Most women never notice when it begins. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not a sudden change, but a slow unraveling. You might still want intimacy, still feel that spark of curiosity, still crave closeness, but when the moment arrives, something doesn't quite connect. The mind is willing, the body hesitates. It's like music starting to play, but one instrument has fallen slightly out of tune. You tell yourself it's stress, or distraction, or maybe even just age. And yet deep down it feels different. There's warmth, but not the same spread of it. There's anticipation, but not the same pulse. It's not that you've stopped wanting, it's that your body doesn't seem to hear the signal in the same way anymore. That's the first secret, the silent drift, the small invisible space that opens between desire and response. For most women, it starts quietly in the years leading up to menopause and grows wider with time. Not because something inside has shut down, but because the inner communication that once happened effortlessly now takes patience and attention. Inside the body, countless tiny messengers, hormones, nerves, vessels, used to speak in perfect harmony. One touch, one thought, and estrogen would amplify every signal, every sensation. It was the translator between your imagination and your skin. But as its voice grows softer, the messages take longer to arrive. The body doesn't stop listening, it just starts whispering back instead of singing. And here's where most women misunderstand it. They think the desire itself is gone, when in reality it's just waiting behind the noise. The craving is still there, it's the pathway that's changed. And the beauty of the body is that it can learn new pathways at any age, as long as you give it reason and attention to do so. You might remember times when arousal used to rise suddenly, like a wave that surprised you. Now it comes slower, like water seeping into dry soil. But that doesn't mean less, it means different. It means your body is asking you to slow down, to listen more carefully, to meet it halfway instead of rushing ahead. Think of it like dancing with a partner you've known for years. You know their steps so well that when they change the rhythm, you stumble at first. But once you listen again, really listen, you realize the dance isn't over, it's simply changed tempo, and the new rhythm, once you find it, can be even more intimate than before. That's why the drift matters, because understanding it is the first step toward reconnecting with the pleasure you thought you'd misplaced. Once you stop blaming yourself and start noticing how your body speaks now, things begin to stir again. The signals get stronger, the warmth spreads farther, the connection deepens. But there's something else hidden beneath this drift, a secret that few women ever hear. It's not just about hormones or age or even touch. It's about a forgotten skill, one you were born with but slowly stopped using, a skill that has the power to make your body listen again, more vividly than it has in years. Stay with me, because that's what we'll uncover next. The second secret, the hidden pathways of pleasure, and how to find the ones that still light up, waiting to be touched. Every woman knows the difference between being touched and being felt. One can happen without the other, and somewhere along the way, that difference becomes everything. After menopause, many women tell me they still crave connection, they still enjoy closeness, but it no longer feels as electric, as consuming, as it once did. They describe it as gentle warmth instead of wildfire. Pleasant, yes, but missing that deep hum that used to ripple through them. That's where the second secret lives, in those hidden pathways. You see, the body has its own private map for pleasure. Once upon a time it responded instantly because every pathway was clear and bright, nerves awake, blood flowing freely, hormones amplifying every sensation. Over time those pathways don't disappear, but they grow quieter. The traffic slows, the signals take the scenic route. And that's why so many women find that solo arousal feels different. Sometimes easier, sometimes deeper, sometimes strangely more satisfying than with a partner. When you're alone, there's no pressure, no performance, no expectation. You can follow your own rhythm, explore your own timing, and listen for what your body truly wants, not what someone else assumes it does. Studies might call it interoceptive awareness. I like to call it the inner ear of pleasure, your ability to sense what's happening inside before it becomes obvious on the outside. It's the same intuition that lets you notice the way your chest softens when you exhale, or the way your pulse changes when something excites you. Most women lose touch with it, not because it disappears, but because they stop pausing long enough to hear it. When you start listening inward again, things begin to shift. You notice sensations sooner. You realize that arousal no longer comes from friction alone, but from attention, from your mind and body finally speaking in the same language again. What once felt faint begins to glow. The body doesn't just react, it participates. And here's something remarkable. These pathways are trainable. They don't belong only to youth. When women begin to reconnect with their inner awareness, when they explore what feels alive rather than what used to, the body wakes up faster, and pleasure travels through new routes. Some women describe it as learning a new alphabet of sensation. The letters are softer, the words slower, but the meaning is even richer. But the body doesn't move through these pathways alone. There's another player, one that supports, holds, and shapes every ripple of pleasure you feel. It's not hormonal, and it's not emotional, though it carries both. It's physical, hidden deep within, waiting for someone to remind it of its rhythm. And that, my dear listener, is the next secret, the pulse beneath pleasure itself, the one most women never think about until they realize it's been holding their pleasure together all along. Stay close, because that's where we're heading next. There's a quiet moment that happens for many women when they go to touch themselves and feel less. Not gone, not numb, just muted. The textures feel different, the warmth takes longer, the body doesn't answer as quickly, and it can leave you wondering, where did that familiar spark go? This is where the third secret lives, in the tender landscape of skin and tissue, in the very places that once bloomed with ease. Over the years, these tissues begin to whisper instead of sing. It's not your imagination. The soft walls that once glided effortlessly begin to thin. The cushion that once welcomed touch starts to dry. But it's not a betrayal, it's biology. Imagine your body as a garden. For decades, estrogen was the steady rain that kept the soil rich, the petals full, the scent alive. When that rain slows, the ground doesn't die, it just needs a different kind of tending. Without enough moisture, the roots grow delicate, the leaves lose color, and the blossoms take longer to open. But with the right care, warmth, movement, attention, that same garden remembers how to bloom. Estrogen loss reshapes the tissues that cradle pleasure. The tiny vessels that once flushed easily with arousal begin to quiet. The collagen that gave them stretch begins to rest. Even the clitoris, that intricate cluster of hidden structures, changes slightly with time. Less engorgement, slower swelling, a subtler pulse. Yet none of this means pleasure is gone. It means the body is asking to be invited back to life more gently. Blood flow is the forgotten language of arousal. It's what gives warmth, color, fullness, that sense of awakening from within. And the beautiful truth is, circulation can return. The body remembers how movement, warmth, breath, even laughter, all these simple things call blood back to those tissues. When you rekindle circulation, you rekindle sensation. And there's another part most women never hear. The skin of your pleasure responds not just to hormones but to attention. Touch, when done with patience and curiosity, becomes nourishment. It's like watering a dry garden not once, but every day, slowly until the petals remember their weight again. So no, your body hasn't forgotten you. It's waiting for you to remember it, waiting for you to slow down long enough to meet it where it now lives, softer, slower, but still alive with possibility. But before those tissues can awaken fully, there's something else that must come back to life, a rhythm that runs deep beneath the surface, quiet, powerful, and essential. It's what turns sensation into climax, and stillness into pulse. It's the heartbeat of your pleasure. And that's where we go next, to the muscles that remember every shiver, every contraction, every release, the secret orchestra beneath your skin. If you close your eyes for a moment and place a hand low on your abdomen, you might feel something subtle, a quiet strength, a hidden rhythm that has been with you your entire life. That rhythm belongs to the muscles of your pelvis, the deep foundation that cradles everything you feel, everything you release, and everything you remember. Most women don't think about them until something goes wrong. But these muscles, this inner heartbeat, hold one of the greatest secrets to pleasure. You see, every ripple of arousal, every flutter of climax, every warm wave that once carried you from the inside out, began here. The pelvic floor isn't just anatomy, it's the rhythm section of desire. It contracts, it lifts, it pulses, drawing blood into the tissues, keeping sensation alive, and sending it outward in tiny, delicious waves. When those muscles grow strong and responsive, they amplify everything you feel. When they grow quiet or tense, the music softens, and with time, it often does. After menopause, these muscles can weaken, just like any other. Years of holding, of sitting, of carrying, and yes, the natural loss of estrogen, all soften their tone. The result? Sensations feel flatter, orgasms shorter, the rise of pleasure harder to catch. But this isn't decline, it's dormancy. And the beautiful thing about dormant muscles is that they can always be woken up again. Think of your pelvic floor as a drum that forgot its rhythm. It doesn't need force, it needs practice, play, and patience. When you begin to move those muscles again, not just through exercise, but through awareness, when you learn to breathe into them, engage them, feel them respond, something changes. The warmth returns, the body begins to hum again, faint at first, then stronger. It's not about perfection or performance, it's about reconnection. These muscles are woven with nerves that carry pleasure directly to your brain. When they contract, they send tiny waves of signal upward, reminding your brain, I'm still here, I still know how to feel. Over time, those messages grow louder. The dance between your brain and body begins again. And here's a little secret most women never hear. The pelvic floor also holds emotion. Years of tension, stress, even self-consciousness can live there. When you start to release that tightness with breath, with laughter, with slow, mindful movement, you don't just restore function, you restore flow. You free the current that carries both sensation and confidence. So yes, your muscles matter, not because they create pleasure, but because they unlock it. They are the gates through which warmth, circulation, and rhythm return. But there's something else that happens when that rhythm starts again. When those pulses travel upward, when the body begins to hum again, something unexpected awakens with it, a deeper kind of wanting. Not the fiery, fleeting desire of youth, but a slower, steadier heat that rises from somewhere more profound. And that's the next secret. The quiet return of desire, the kind that doesn't rush, doesn't shout, but lingers like an ember waiting to be stirred. Desire after 60 rarely announces itself. It doesn't knock on the door with urgency or flood your thoughts like it once did. It moves differently now, softer, deeper, wiser. It doesn't demand, it waits. But it's still there, it's always been there. It simply hides beneath years of distraction, worry, and the belief that it no longer belongs to you. Many women tell me they miss that sudden spark, that impulsive craving that used to arrive uninvited. They think it's gone, replaced by calmness or comfort or habit. But what if desire hasn't left? What if it's simply taken on a new shape, one that doesn't scream for attention but hums quietly under the surface, waiting for you to notice? This is the fifth secret, the quiet return of desire. The kind that doesn't start in the body at all, but in the mind. Desire now begins with curiosity, with permission to feel. It grows when you stop chasing what used to excite you and start exploring what does now. For some women it's warmth, for others softness, touch, conversation, or even a slow, deep breath. It's no longer a spark from outside, it's a glow that builds from within. Hormones still play their role, of course. Testosterone, the often forgotten sister of estrogen, still lives quietly in your system, shaping confidence, curiosity, and drive. When it dips too low, that inner spark can dim, but it can also be reignited, not only by therapy or medication, but by intention, by reminding your body what it feels like to be wanted by yourself, first and foremost. Because the truth is, your body responds to attention. When you start to treat it as something worth discovering again, not a task, not a problem to solve, but something sacred, it begins to wake up. The body follows the mind's invitation. A lingering touch becomes a conversation. A moment of curiosity becomes a flicker of warmth. And soon, warmth turns to movement, and movement turns to pulse. But this kind of desire asks for presence. It doesn't rush. It doesn't perform. It wants depth. It wants honesty. It wants you to slow down long enough to feel every tiny spark of aliveness returning to your skin, your breath, your thoughts. And here's where most women are beautifully surprised. When this slower desire finally returns, it feels nothing like before. It's calmer, yes, but also richer. It's not driven by youth's urgency, it's driven by awareness. It's not about chasing pleasure, it's about inhabiting it. And when that awareness deepens, when you allow yourself to stay in that space without expectation, something extraordinary happens. A new kind of pleasure appears. One that isn't about intensity, but intimacy with yourself, your body, your years, your wisdom. And that leads us to the final secret, the moment when everything you've learned so far about hormones, touch, rhythm, and desire comes together into something entirely new, a second wave of pleasure that belongs only to women who've lived enough to understand it. Stay with me, because that secret changes everything. There comes a point when a woman realizes that her body has stopped chasing fireworks and started craving warmth. It's not about speed anymore, or proving that she can. It's about depth, about letting every part of her, even the quietest corners, come alive again. For many, this realization arrives unexpectedly. A gentle moment of touch, a breath that lingers longer than usual, a quiet evening where you feel yourself not as you were, but as you are now, grounded, aware, fully present. The pleasure that follows doesn't rise in a rush. It builds slowly, patiently, like a tide that knows exactly where it's going. This is what I call the second wave. The kind of pleasure that isn't measured in intensity, but in fullness. It starts small, a flicker of warmth in the chest, a slow pulse deep in the belly, and then it spreads, not upward like it used to, but outward, like ripples in calm water. It leaves you steady instead of breathless, fulfilled instead of spent. You see, the body doesn't forget how to feel, it simply learns to feel differently. As the years go on, your nerves, your circulation, even your muscles begin to favor slower rhythms. The climax may come faster or last shorter, but what surrounds it becomes wider. Pleasure stops being a single peak and turns into a landscape, one you can wander for as long as you choose. And something else happens too. The emotional echo grows stronger. Women often tell me that pleasure now feels more connected, not just to their body, but to memory, to gratitude, to peace. It's as if every sensation carries meaning. Maybe it's because after everything you've lived through, your body no longer needs to prove anything, it just wants to be felt. That's what this second wave is all about. It's not the same pleasure you once knew, it's one that holds you instead of sweeping you away. It's softer, but it stays longer. It fills you from the inside, reminding you that your body isn't old, it's wise. It's still listening, still learning, still capable of beauty. And perhaps that's the real truth no one says out loud. Pleasure doesn't belong to youth, it belongs to attention, to the woman who dares to stay curious, to the one who still asks, what if there's more? So tonight, when the world grows quiet, close your eyes, breathe, let your hand rest where your warmth lives. Don't chase, don't judge, just listen, because your body still remembers the language of pleasure. It's just waiting for you to start the conversation again.